Welcome back. So we are continuing with the Info Technology Paper 4 Advanced Practical October-November 2024. So the very first part of task 1 is been done and completed in the previous video. Now we're continuing with the task. So as we continue, we are told the model needs to explore the sales, income, and profit for different values, and protect the model with the password CIE. So I go to my spreadsheet, right click and protect, then I type the required CIE. So click OK. So my spreadsheet is unprotected, so I can now play around with all the values or all the cells. Now moving on to the next part, we are told limit the advertising costs to between 15,000 and 25,000. So advertising costs. These are the advertising costs. And we are told there has to be limited between 15,000 and 25,000. So this is validation. So I have to go to, so click on this value, the advertising cost, then go on data, then I go on data validation. So what am I going to validate? I could use whole number, but since this is a monetary value, it can also carry decimal values. So I'm going to use decimal. Then it's telling me data between, so minimum value is 15,000 and the maximum value is 25,000. Is the requirement of the paper. Limit the advertising cost to between 15,000 and 25,000. Insert suitable input and error alert messages. So I can go on to input message, then I can say input 1. So input message, I can just say enter values between 15,000 and 25,000. So there are no hard and fast rules as to what you're going to enter. So you can enter whatever information, but that tells the user what you are dealing with. So I'm copying the same message here. Then I go to my error alert. Then here I can just put the title is error. Then error message. Then I just put the message like that. So click on OK. So we can see the input message that is showing there. And if someone is going to enter a value, a wrong value, so maybe 25, there should be an error message here that would show. So this is how the error message and the input message will be showing. So moving on to the next part, we are told enter 16 is the monitor selling price. So monitor selling price, I'm changing this to 16. So that's, and you can see the other calculations are changing as well. So after changing that, I'm told the projections table needs to be extended. So this is the table, projection table, and it has to be extended like that. So 16, 17 up to 35,000. So 16 pounds up to 35 pounds, the monitor selling price. So as this change, these other calculated values should also be changing. So the projections table needs to be extended. Amend the formulas in D14 and F14 to extend the projections as shown below. So we need which cells to change D14 and F14. So D14 is this cell, F14 is this cell. So we need some values. We need to make some amendment to the formula. So if you check on the formula, you find this is the formula that we had already been given. So this formula, it is what some cells within the calculation. It is what 14, of which C14 we are okay with it because C14 is this value which is going to be changing. So this one will let it remain as relative, because as we move from C14 it should go to C15 and so on and so on. But if you go to D10, so D10 is the projected so D10 the D10 value that we are referring to is this value, the manufacturing cost. But if you look at this D10, it has to be a constant value. So this value should not change, isn't it? So D10, the manufacturing cost. So I'm going to make this absolute. So that's the amendment that I'm making. So I'm using function F4 on my laptop to make this constant, or you could just use the dollar sign, isn't it? Dollar sign before D and after D, making D10 constant. So let's look at another value there. So another value is D7. So D7 should be this value. So it should also be made constant the same way. So all values that need to be constant, D10, we agreed D10 should also be made constant. So I'm making it absolute. Then D7, we said it has to be constant as well. D7 is here as well. So wherever we have a value that is to be made constant, we have to use the dollar sign. We are left with C7, C14, and we agreed that C14 should not be made constant because C14 is holding this value. So when you move from C14, it should be C15 and so on and so on. So this change is fine for D. So we are not asked to make any change here on income. Why? Because these values, they don't need to be made constant, because these should remain relative. We need to, they have to change from D14 to D15, C14 to C15. The other cell that need to be changed is this cell, which is the profit. So profit, in the same vein, the same way we have done on the number of projected cells, we need to make the change. So D6, so the value that is in D6 has to be made constant. So we have to go on D6, make that constant. Therefore, D7 as well, make it constant. The dollar signs 10. D10 is this value, the manufacturing cost. It has to be constant as well. Then D14, we are not going to make it constant. We're going to leave it as it is. So it's supposed to be changing. So after making these changes, what are we going to do? We need to copy down the formulas. So I'm going to select. So let me copy down this one first. So we have got 16. So the next value has to be 17. So 17 pounds. So this value has to be in currency, 2 decimal places. So I'm going to copy down this up to which cell? So I need to copy this up to row 33, up to value 35 pounds. So I'm copying these two, replicating these two value, then up to 35 pounds. So this is the cell. Then I need to copy these other calculations as well up to the last. So this is the setup, and I also need to make sure that my borders are clear. So what I'm just doing here is select everything on the home tab, just make sure that all borders are visible. So I've done all borders there. Now that's the required. So I'm sure our outputs are the same. So if you check the last values, compare with these ones, they look the same. So after having done it, let's see if there's anything that you need to do. So having done this part, I think we have completed this other part, which is 5 marks. So 5 easy marks there. So that's the required task. So very simple amendments that needed to be done, and hopefully you'll be able to play around with the amendments, and the key thing is the formulas. So the formulas when it comes to this part, you needed to make sure that every cell that is with a constant value should be made absolute. That's why we have used the dollar signs on D10, D7, etc. So this, they didn't say anything about column E, because the values have to be changed. As we move from D14, we see D15, C15. So the calculations are fine. Then the other formula that needed to be amended was the profit, where we needed to make sure that this is to be made constant, D6 and D7 as well as D10. So thank you so much. I hope you'll be able to follow through.